So last night on Dynamite, Edge, or as he's going to be known as, by his real name, Adam Copeland, made his debut on Dynamite. Now, yes, he made his AEW debut this past Sunday at the end of WrestleDream when he confronted Christian, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne, and came to the aid of Darby Allin and Sting. Well, he officially made his Dynamite debut, like I said last night, and, everybody was always wondering exactly, okay, why is Adam Copeland in AEW? He's accomplished everything, you can imagine in this business, especially with the premier, wrestling company promotion in the world being, that being WWE. It's like, what else is there for him to do? Well, in case you don't know, if you've been hiding under a rock, back in 2011, as he mentioned last night in his promo, he was forced into retirement, told he would never do this again. And yet, here he is in 2023 standing in an AEW ring. The same could be said for back in 2020 when he was once again standing in a WWE ring. Nobody said 9 years after they told him, hey, you got to hang it up or else you're going to get paralyzed or something like that. No one told him 9 years. No one told him at that time that 9 years later he'd be back in this business. He'd be back doing what he loves. However, 2011 he wasn't able to go out on his own terms. Yes, he was able to go out as the world champion, but not the way he wanted. Now, here's the thing: did he go out the way he wanted in his second run with WWE? Not exactly, but kind of. Like, basically, WWE in his second run really didn't have much to do for him towards the end. They really didn't have much to do for him. I mean, they gave him the opportunity to create the Judgment Day, which we now see as it is. But, that was it. Until basically Vince McMahon or somebody else took over and said, nah, we don't need you, Edge. We're going to put Finn Balor in your place. And there you go. Now, after that, he did have his feud, his program with Judgment Day, with Balor, with Damian, with Dominic. He had his programs. But then afterwards, after WrestleMania this year, he was kind of floundering. It's like, where does he go from here? Yes, he was in a triple threat match in the World Heavyweight Championship tournament, if you will, to see who would go on in the tournament to basically face Seth Rollins, for the championship, to see who would be the new champion anyway. Now, he didn't win that, which was a triple threat between him, Sheamus, and AJ, but still, at least it was something for him to do, because he was kind of in that influx period to where he's done what he could, but now what? What's the next step? So apparently, with his contract coming up, and WWE already probably sending, already preparing to send him out an extension to stay, which he did acknowledge they did email him one after his final match with Sheamus in the company. He pretty much knew maybe this was it. Like, there was nothing else for him to do, so how is he going to go out? And like I said, they pretty much worked it out with him that, hey, we're going to be in Toronto. We know that you may not be with us before this year's out anymore. You may be with the competition. So how would you like to have your last match in the company on SmackDown against an opponent of your choosing? And Adam was all for that. He said, fine. I don't have a problem with that, as long as my last opponent in this company could be Sheamus, who's one of his closest friends. And that's what happened. And then fast forward a few months later, because that happened in August, his contract wasn't up until basically this past weekend. And lo and behold, here's Adam Copeland, debuting in All Elite Wrestling at WrestleDream. Now, he said in his promo, as well as he said in the media scrum after WrestleDream, that the deciding factor for him to, have one more run in the business especially in a new atmosphere with new opponents and all that, was his daughters Ruby and Lyric. And mostly Lyric was the one that said, go have fun with Uncle Jay, who is Christian Cage to all of us fans. And that was pretty much it. That was pretty much why he decided to go all elite. The other reason as well is, even though, as I've mentioned and others have mentioned, he had a bit of creative freedom in WWE during his final run with them, especially when it came to creating the Judgment Day initially. Here in All Elite Wrestling in AEW, he's going to be able to have even more fun, even more creative freedom, I should say, than he's ever had before. He's going to be able to get more aggressive, more violent, if you will, more I guess you could say versatile. Not versatile. I guess you could say, what would the word be? Versatile or visceral. That's the word I'm looking for. He has the opportunity to become more visceral, from a vocabulary standpoint than he's ever been able to before. I mean, heck, we kind of saw an example of that, last night. The other reason as well, as I just checked something here for a moment, the other reason as well is because of the fact that he's going to be able to have his first major program with his best friend. And the storyline basically being built there is he's going to feud with his best friend, and then when his time in AEW is up, probably around the same time Christian's is up, that's when they're going to team together and go out on top as one of the greatest, if not greatest, tag team of all time. No matter where they're at. But the other reason too, going back to Christian, if you will, is because of the fact that we know that Edge and Christian have feuded before. We saw this in 2001. We saw it in 2001 for a brief period. We've seen it kind of on and off in WWE, even after that. But here's the thing. They've never been able to really get, very creative, in their programs with each other. Whether one's a babyface and one's a heel, or vice versa, or whatever. They've never been able to get really creative in what they want to do. The one thing Tony Khan, much to the chagrin of some people, is willing to let his talent do is get creative. And that is what I think is appealing to Edge, to Adam Copeland. The fact that he can get more creative with his best friend now than he ever has. Knowing that the last time they feuded, one of the last times anyway, was in 2001 and throughout that early 2000 portion. Basically, they were feuding on and off, more so, like I said, in 2001, when it came during the whole Alliance WWE situation. Hold on for a sec. Sorry about that, but like I said, he's got a little bit more creative freedom, because even when they feuded during the Alliance WWE situation and on and off afterwards, and even when they were associated with each other, they would have matches with each other, or they would be involved in matches to where they couldn't really get as creative as they wanted to. And now, Tony Khan, one thing as I was saying before the phone rang there, that he allows his talent to do is get as creative as they want to be. Give them a little creative freedom. Himself, and his creative team, his booking team, will get with them and say, hey, this is what you're going to do. Here's what we have planned for you. Here's your story and all that. They'll do that. That's not a problem. And they'll probably give them bullet points to work off of. But then most of the time, it's up to them. Or even give them a script and say, this is what you're going to say. This is what you're going to do, da-da-da. But the script will have a little bit more leeway in what they can do. Stuff like that. Basically, there's more freedom to be had. And that's what, again, attracted Adam Copeland to go there. That way, if he's going to have a feud with Christian to start the storyline that's going to reunite them in the end, then he's going to want to have a storyline to where it starts off with a bang. He's going to want to have a program that starts off with a bang and allows him and Christian to get as creatively innovative and violent and vicious with each other because they can trust each other and what they do in that ring than they ever could in WWE. I mean, the furthest they ever got, basically, ladies and gentlemen, as they take something there again, the furthest they ever really got was the ladder match they had in 2001. You know, as well as some of the concerto shots they would give to each other or to their opponents. And yeah, you're going to get that here, but you're going to have more vileness connected to it. You're going to have more viciousness connected to it. You know, more violent. Yeah, did I say? Yeah, more violentness. I did say that, but more viciousness, more vileness, more, you know, more like, you know, ooh, like I like this, that believability of, oh, I can't stand you, bam, or hope, like, Christian, please forgive me for what I got to do here. Hopefully, knock some sense into you, boom, you know, stuff like that. You're gonna get that more so in AEW, and that's one thing. Anybody, whether you like AEW or you don't like AEW, you got to give them credit. They are at least more creative. They at least creatively give more freedom to their talent, whether they're writing the story for the talent themselves, or they're basically saying, okay, here's the idea that we have for you. Now it's up to you to make it a reality and turn it into a story. You know, they got a lot more creative freedom, whether, you know, again, whether you like the company or you don't. And that's why, you know, in my opinion, Adam Copeland going to AEW and his first programming being with his best friend is an example of, hey, this is a story that is now going to finally have the legs it needs to really be told and allow these two legends in this business to get as creatively crazy as they've always wanted to get in, you know, in their careers. Again, like I said, they had opportunities to get violent and everything, to get vicious and all that with each other, you know, as opponents and as partners, you know, when it came to ladder matches, TLC matches, you name it. But now they're going to have even more freedom than before. And it's going to be on them to really up that ante, you know, and show everybody, the new generation and the generation that grew up with them, that, hey, not only could they still put on an entertaining story and an entertaining match, but the fact that they could get even more crazy, more innovative with what they're showing us than we ever thought they could. I mean, I'll put it this way. We've seen Christian and Edge on separate occasions throughout their careers get hit with barbed wire, glass, thumbtacks, you name it, right? Well, now they got an opportunity, if they want to go that direction, to get even more wild with that kind of stuff. You could even throw in, you know, fire if you want to. I'm just saying. And then the sit-down interviews, you know that those are going to happen. Those are going to get as personal and as believable between the two than they ever had. If what we saw last night at the end of the Dynamite is an example of what the sit-down interviews will be like, I can tell you this, that those sit-down interviews are going to get people talking no matter how you feel about the company overall. Because that's one thing they do. They try to make it as real and legit as possible and believable. But yeah, that's why, in my opinion, Adam Copeland went to AEW, whether you like AEW or you don't, because he's getting that he's getting more creative freedom, and he's going to be able to he's going to be able to have a program with his best friend that he could never have in WWE. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys.